right, welcome to Gen X Rated Saturday edition. We've got a special guest today. I'll start with Uncle Bill, and of course, Melissa is here to join us with her healthcare background and research, which will be very informative. Uncle Bill, we'll start. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Had a good workout with Cole, and very excited to have Melissa on today. One of the smartest people I know, and just always interesting and amazing to talk with. So very excited.
Really setting the bar low for me there, huh? Right? Making me very successful seeming once I don't live up to that. So
Impossible.
Fine.
Yeah. Well, we are glad to have you. I mean, there's so much stuff going on with retracting from research, which is what you've spent your life doing, basically. We all appreciate the people that work in the labs, the people that do the data analysts, the people that put in all this time and effort, and it gets somewhat discounted. I think we're going to see pretty quickly as we start limiting this that we're going to have less and less people do what you do in this country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I was sort of chatting with you guys a little bit off the podcast, and I'm just hearing stories every day of investigators that have lost their grants, investigators that study things like anything LGBTQ is
Of course
gone, right? That list of canceled grants that I saw was thousands long. Basically all HIV research is being cut. We've solved that problem. We don't need to deal with that anymore, right? So
well, does that correlate at all? I know that with the State Department, we're pulling all our resources out of like Africa. Have we been there, done that type of thing, like HIV, no big deal?
I mean, I think it's a lot to do with where HIV is still affecting people, right? And there's a lot of, in the trans community, there's a lot of HIV transmission still. Obviously in the Black communities, there's often obviously in Africa, there's still a big HIV problem. So it really is about who it's affecting and whether they care.
Well, clearly we've shown as a nation, at least this current administration, that skin color does matter. If it's happening to people we don't really care about, the gay community or Blacks, then it's not really a topic, I guess.
Right. We don't want to put our tax dollars towards helping people like that, right?
Those people.
Yeah, and they're the comment when I saw they were like cutting all this funding from the official comment was like, well, getting the taxpayer funding is a privilege, and I'm thinking, we work our whole lives, we train for 10 years onwards, and we write these grants never knowing if they're going to actually get funded. A very small percentage of them get funded. You have to be on your game and really pretty good at what you do, and then to have them all canceled. I mean, the chair of our department, we had our faculty meeting yesterday, and he was saying he knows somebody at the University of Chicago studies HIV, had 9 grants canceled. Wow. That's a killer for his whole research team, right? All the people employed by him, by those 9 grants, they're all going to have to not have a job anymore.
And is that like instantly, like the funding just stops and now the lab's closed and we're doing cleanup? It's not like, hey, you have 6 weeks to turn.
No, you probably have a little bit of time because the funding probably goes to the next, like to the end of the fiscal year, and then you don't get another lot next year. So there's probably a little bit of funding left for a couple of months to like clear things out, but that stops all this research.
And where would a person like that go? Now you have 9 years in this area. Then what are you going to do? You're going to go someplace else, another country?
I mean, that probably, there's a lot of people. I had heard recently a couple of professors left Yale to go to Canada. A couple of, I mean, it's constant in conversation and amongst my colleagues.
Yeah.
And everybody asks each other when they first talk to each other after a while, they say, so how are you doing with all this? Like, has anything been canceled? It's a common, instead of like, hey, how you doing? We're like, hey, what's canceled of yours? It's really terrible. It's really like, I've never seen it like this. And I've been in research basically since I graduated from undergrad. And that's I don't even want to say how long that is. That's a good long time.
A bit of time.
And I've never seen anything like this. I mean, we lived through the the really bad recession we had and the grants, obviously, are like one of the first things they cut is, money for research. It always gets cut right up the arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, that we lived through that. We managed to make it through that. We thought that was about as bad as it was going to be. And then there's this, and it's just absolutely going to devastate medical research in this country.
That's horrific.
It's horrifying. Now, is there any chance of like private foundations stepping up to fill that void?
We are definitely reaching out to, every private foundation. The problem is that private foundations are a great source of funding for research. The problem really is like finding one that has a big enough budget
Mm-hmm.
to clinical based research, right? So if we're doing like something in a lab, our main cost is our research laboratory technician and, the animals, right? Maybe whatever reagents. But when we're doing an epi study or an epidemiology study, something that's more clinical, it's expensive because any kind of study where you are working with humans, there's always some kind of compensation. You have to give them for their time and effort. You don't have to do that for a lab mouse, So, and then it's very labor intensive. So we hire a lot of people. There's project managers, there's interviewers, there's data managers, there's analysts. So, all of those people are going to be, all this expertise is, what do? They may as well just go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't blame them, but yeah, it's crazy because you have so many billionaires now lining up behind Trump. I mean, are there any good ones? Our Pittsburgh guy, Mark Cuban, write a couple of checks. You can afford it. I mean, step up and do the right thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of confidence that'll happen.
No, people are afraid their lives will be threatened. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Well, and but we've talked about this before. Like when you have that kind of money, right? You commonly refer to it as "fuck you" money, right? Fuck you. I'm wealthy. I'll do what I want.
Right.
Why can't you put your money where your mouth? Fuck you, Trump. I'll see you in court. I can spend dollar for dollar with you, and I can maybe in some cases outspend you. So fuck you.
Right.
It's sad to see that some of these people just don't put their money literally where their mouth is and, contribute to the greater good.
Right. No, I agree completely.
They're never going to be able to match what the government grants and funding can do, though. So,
well, no, but I mean, they can at least maybe
pick and choose what we support when, again, it's people spent their whole careers in various fields. This is what makes us the country we're supposed to be. We say we're number one in math. We're not. We say we're number one in science. We're not. We can pound the chest, but we always had people from other countries that wanted to come here and do the research based on these institutions. It was great to see that they had to return to the student visas because they got such pushback. That not only included Harvard and Yale, but also like the Big Ten. Ohio State came out. People understand the importance of this. The orange guy may not, and his underlings may not care, but this country was kind of built on bringing. I mean, we brought all the German scientists over here. Okay, like
those with questionable pasts, that we kind of overlooked.
Right,
for sure.
All in the name of scientific advancement.
And we used to pride ourselves on that. We wanted to be the first on the moon, and now it's like we're just withdrawing into this little 1940s, bubble.
Well, I mean, it is one of the things that, people who are trying to be authoritarians do, right? They get rid of the people who are, the educated populace because those are the troublemakers. So they're really doing, I think not even a small nudge, but they're really just nudging us out of this country.
Yeah. And to your point, maybe you've looked at my show notes, but there was another administration that went after purging judges early in their administration. They fought against judges, lawyers, academias, universities. So to your authoritarian point, I think that's well stated.
Yeah. Yep. It's exactly. I mean, people have been writing books on this topic. I haven't read many of them or even any of them.
They're depressing.
But people have been writing books on the topic of how closely, how much our country right now is following the authoritarian playbook.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
right?
like page by page.
It is. It's just, I never thought, I mean, I consider myself to be patriotic. I consider myself I really love the ideals that this country was founded on. And I really love that we are a mix of immigrants because I think that's always been our strength.
Absolutely.
Immigration has always been the people who will walk 3,000 miles with their kids on their backs through a jungle to get here is exactly who we want here,
Yeah.
right? Because they'll work their butts off to try to make it work. And those are the people we need. We need that fresh blood. That's why America has been the ones that invented all the big things, the electricity, the internet, the television, like everything, basically, because we have all these people who worked really hard to get away from a bad situation and come to something better. And those are the kind of people you want.
Sure.
Right?
And we used to welcome them.
Yeah.
And that's why we did well. And shutting that off is going to shut off the, the trickle of like fresh blood that we were constantly getting.
Well, and presents very poorly. I mean, we talk on the pod a lot about U.S. aid, which I'm a huge fan of. The soybeans that are produced in Missouri go overseas, takes care of a lot of people, and that's just from our state. But my point being that we're not doing that anymore. That was one of the first things we cut. Now we don't take care of others. We aren't that shining beacon of care, empathy. We're not welcoming, you're poor, you're hungry, all that good stuff that was on the Statue of Liberty, which Jean had to point out to us that there was shackles at her feet.
Cover that up.
Yeah.
Put the drape over it. I did want to read a quote to your point about Trump. They were asking him domestically about blocking grants of the NIH that funded research for infectious disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. And his response was, maybe we didn't think they were right. You look at the people, look at the money that was given away by others. We didn't get anything out of it. So again, it's all like a plus minus game with this guy, and it all has to be about making him money.
Right.
Everything is transactional.
Yep.
Everything has to be a win. And it's interesting because we had a friend in town over the week who does, a lot of work with very wealthy people, and he's done that for a long time. And we were having a conversation over lunch the other day, and I was giving my thoughts on when you have that kind of money, like giving it away makes you feel better. These must be some pretty miserable people, right? They're just hoarding it. And he basically said, I've known a lot of these people. I've had to work with them and deal with them, and their whole thing is always about winning. They have to have the win. It's all about their ego. Like, who's going to pay for lunch? You've got billionaires arguing over who's going to pick up a $45 check. And it just all comes down to that ego. And Trump's got this tiny little bit of self-esteem. I mean, he must really hate himself because for somebody to be that narcissistic and that transactional on everything, I almost feel sorry for the guy.
I kind of do too, actually, a little bit. No, just a little bit.
Tiny bit.
In the sense that he is a product, partially, of how he was raised. Right? Raised with privilege and believed that he deserved that privilege.
Yeah.
Right? And that he earned it somehow. And, he was raised to believe that. That's not to say that all people who are raised to believe that would become a monster.
Yeah.
Right? But
that one did.
He did. Right. He did. But I'm saying there is like an element of, this like kid who was clearly had troubled, they're sending him to military school. He must have been bullying every kid in his,
killing small animals, etc. Yes.
He threw rocks at a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. He literally stole lollipops from babies. But yeah.
Are you talking about this guy sleeping at the Pope's funeral?
Oh my God.
He couldn't wait to get there. Very excited.
Right. It's going to be great. Just not to change the subject, but it was a black suit affair with a black tie. I'm pretty sure he was 0 for 2 on both requirements.
Yeah.
Shocker.
But again, he's just not in the moment. It is about him. His parents didn't care for him either. I mean, let's be honest. I'm sure that had an effect as well. But he's always been a terrible person. I just didn't think he'd be running the country.
No. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, my friend lived in New York, back in the 80s, basically. And he said Donald Trump was just a big joke to everyone. He was, he was just an entirely punchline for everyone. And how this happened is really a weird trail to follow.
So weird.
Well, you're going to have to come back for another time to talk about how this all happened, because that's been years in the making and extremely planned by many people, and not him. He's not that smart.
No, I know.
He's not.
but we got stuck with him, which is the worst part of all of it.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was just going to read off, which we talked about before, some research estimates. Researchers estimate 220,000 people will die because of Doge cuts, including 150,000 children. And on average, the average American saves about $150.
That's crazy.
Like you said, I would pay that forward. I'd give $300 to not have, 148,000 children die based on lack of research. And just to go back to like vaccination, like RFK Jr., how did we get so far away from the belief? When we were kids, you probably got your shot at school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't have a parent punching out the nurse for giving you inoculation. You didn't really question it. And as Bill said before, past generations, even the Mitch McConnells, they saw polio. They saw what these diseases did. We eradicated measles in 2000. How do we have over 800 cases? How does this just come back? Is it the parents' fault? Are they not being educated by our federal government? Or is it now that the federal government is off that? Like, how do we get here? How did we get here?
Vaccine hesitancy is not even the word. Hesitancy is not the right word for it. Like, it's sort of militant anti-vaccine, where you get these people who, don't acknowledge the science. They were completely, that paper that showed an association was retracted because he made up the data, right?
For autism?
Yes. Yeah. He made up the data and had to retract the paper. And people are still believing it based on this made up data, right? Everybody that did studies after that, no association between, that's what we call ecological associations anyway, where you say something like, well, this is increasing in the population and we're increasing our vaccines, right? So you're looking at these kinds of correlations that can be totally spurious. There's actually a website, it's really fun to look at, the website of spurious correlations. And there's things like the proportion of people who, die by getting strangled in their bed sheets by cheese consumption. And it's there's a linear relationship, and it's really fun to look at. And you can see, like, just to say there's an increase in our vaccine schedule, right? And kids are getting more autism. Like, these two things don't in any way have to be related, even if there's like, I don't know, even if there's some effect, right? They really don't have to be related. So it's just kind of crazy to me to think that people use those kinds of lines of evidence.
Yeah. Well, and even in the simplest terms, I mean, we're more medically advanced. We're able to clue into who has autism at an earlier time.
Exactly.
Your weird neighbor, you just thought he was a weirdo, or maybe he was a little slow. Nobody was like, oh, he's on the spectrum. Put him into the service industry. He'll never be worth anything. Or like this knucklehead said, hey, you'll never get married. You'll never date. You'll never have a job. You'll never pay taxes. Like, RFK's got a hard on for this one issue. And that's what he's running on. But it's terrifying, because once you start recommending that, children don't get the COVID-19 booster or even the shot, I mean, the CDC can pull it. The FDA approved it. The FDA monitors it. It's not a risk to these kids, and it's beneficial. But you have one guy that comes in that's got an angst against something, and then all of us suffer from that. I mean, this measles, we're talking about getting our booster because we're still under 60 to be able to get our booster. And why not? I don't want measles. I mean,
especially when you're older, it's very dangerous.
For sure.
You don't wanna, these are diseases you're supposed to, if you're going to get them at all, you're supposed to get them in childhood.
Yeah.
So if you get them at older ages, a lot of times they're more and more dangerous. Chickenpox as an adult is way more dangerous than chickenpox as
is it lethal, or just it messes up mechanically, or?
It can be lethal. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, and it seems like measles is pretty easy to get too. I mean, if you're in a crowded airport and somebody goes bopping through there.
Yep. Very contagious. Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing on Twitter that they would say, hey, if you pass through Dulles between 4 and 7 p.m. and you were in this gate area, be aware.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, if we can be that specific to these people and give you the guidance that, hey, they were in, gate 17 area at an airport, we should be a lot more advanced with some of this scientific stuff. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, it's the demonization of science has a lot to do with this, right? And it's that mistrust of people who are smart and do science and math. Like there's mistrust, right? That
Why?
yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody has fostered the idea, because when I was growing up, I'm sure when you guys, your parents did the same thing. Like being educated was like, a goal. I mean,
Yeah.
I came from like the working poor, so like getting an education was my way out, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, you're educated, you're a snob, you're an elitist, you're a, I don't know why that change has happened, but it's been clear
Yeah.
coming over the last few decades.
Well,
Mhm.
and then it comes to a pinnacle when you have Lutnick telling people that we're opening up all these factories. The trade craft is back, baby. And I'm always very respectful of people in the trades. We had Parkway Tech, part of our high school, when kids knew they weren't going to go to college, couldn't afford college, didn't have the aptitude for college. They went half the day at trade school. They
Yeah.
could work on cars. They could work on air conditioning. They could work on electrical. It was
Yep.
amazing. And I respected that those kids knew early on that this was something they could jump into and have a really good life earning, whether it's plumbing or electrical or fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But they weren't
Absolutely.
like, oh, you kids that are still at school are a bunch of, know-it-alls, or,
Right,
we're all
right.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My sister did that actually when she was in high school for a little while. She went to do welding. It was called vocational technical school, and they would send you
Yeah.
off to learn, to repair cars or weld or whatever. So
Low
you could have
tech.
a decent blue collar job and make a good salary and raise a family and have enough to, do all those American dreamy sort of things. But I mean, maybe part of it is the opportunity to go to school, to go to college, is just so much harder than when I was going to school.
Absolutely.
Oh my
You know,
Well,
God. Yeah.
you look at your semester at Pitt, how much you paid a semester compared to now.
right.
Mhm.
It's insane. I have a relative who is going to go to Pitt, Hail to Pitt,
Hail to Pitt.
40 grand a year.
Yeah.
With I won't even, they're loans. I won't even say that you got any kind of scholarship money. With
Okay.
loans included, it's 32 a year.
Wow.
I want to say a semester at Pitt when I was there was $3,600.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the whole
Yeah.
year was around a little over 7,000. I kind of remember for a year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And it was, it's not the cheapest school you could go to. So, could have gone to something more state centered, not so semi-private oriented,
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, you could go to school for less than 10,000 a year. When
Mhm.
Evan went, we couldn't get any good loans for Evan because they went to Toronto for school. So it's all
Nice.
horrible, horrible loans. But it was still, it was like $60,000 the first year. And then they married their friend, and it was suddenly less than 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Holy mackerel. That's impressive.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, marry your friend. That sounds good. Probably the best reason to get married in the first place,
Yeah. Right.
For sure.
good friends. But
Well,
yeah.
I
But
mean, it's
and we had Pell Grants,
Hmm.
which you didn't have to pay back.
Right.
And we were really fortunate. We came out with little or no debt. It wasn't that crushing weight tied around your ankle, dragging you down for the rest of your adult life.
Right.
I will add this. Her clock starts immediately when she starts school on those loans.
That's crazy.
It's not deferred to 4 years.
No.
That was unheard of to me.
Yeah.
That's Evans too. I have to pay them.
How can you get out of that? How do you work your way out of that unless you get really lucky and get extremely well paid? It's crazy.
It
Well, I mean,
is.
it drags our whole economy down. I
It
think
does.
people are so short-sighted when they're like, we don't want to give students a break on their student loans because I had to pay all mine back. I paid all mine back too. They were manageable.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
someone coming out of college with $200,000 worth of debt, that's going to keep them from being able to do so many things that mean they can't spend money in the economy.
Get an
Yeah.
apartment, pay your
Right.
health care,
Get married,
your
have a kid. I
utilities.
mean, it's
Right.
it's crippling.
Well, they're going to pay them $5,000 now to have a kid, right?
And
So,
don't forget the medal that comes with the medal. We did
Only
talk
a
about
white
though,
kid, though.
to raise a baby to age 18 is $318,000. So they're a little bit short with that $5,000.
yeah.
The question that was asked was, does that pertain to Black women as well?
Oh,
That's
no,
a very good question.
yeah.
And we talked about this before. That's not a new idea. that idea was launched in Nazi Germany by the SS. They would pay, you got a medal if you had more than 5 kids and you got paid. And they encouraged the SS officers who were supposedly pure Aryans to go out, even if they were married, to impregnate as many women as they could, as long as they were pure Aryans, and have as many pure Aryan babies as possible. So
God.
again, right out of the playbook. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because if they were really serious about encouraging women to have more children, they'd give us, oh, I don't know, paid maternity leave for, for paid paternity leave as well. How about childcare? How about just giving us affordable childcare, right? I
And
mean,
healthcare.
and healthcare. My childcare costs for my 2 kids when they were little was significantly more than my mortgage was a month. So I mean, that's
Well,
stupid.
and if they were super young and it's year round care, right? It's not,
Yeah.
they go to school and then you have to find summer camps or something
Right.
for them to do for the middle months, but like that's a year round thing and it's hugely expensive and it mainly allows two parents to work
Right.
because, hey, it starts in the home. Well, now we're going back to these trad wives that are all about staying home, but it's messed up a whole generation. These kids, the men feel inferior because the women are successful and don't need these stupid kids that are staying home, that have no drive, that aren't pushing anything except a negative narrative. And these women are like, hey, I'm getting educated. I'm moving on. When I need a husband, I'll let you know.
Right. Right.
And they can't handle it. But where's the drive for them? Take care of your own business and put yourself in a position that a woman might have a need for you or an attraction for you, other than I complain, I'm the victim constantly. It's not really attractive.
Right. Like the incel people.
Or just, accept the fact that, hey, I'm married to a woman who's really smart and bright and intelligent and has a great job, and I'm really happy to support her. And she's the breadwinner, and I'll handle things here. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't. You know what? Honestly, Rob, if you could just like make another one of yourself, because I sort of feel like you're me, but you do me a lot better than I do me. Like you do me the way I'd want to do me. Like you just take care of everything, and it's a wonderful thing to see. It worked out really well. Just
Well,
I mean,
everybody has to know their role.
Right.
It's not as if it's just if you make less, then your job becomes secondary. So I had to work part-time or I had to work out of my house or decided that childcare was going to be important and that we wanted to be part of it. Some of that may have come from our upbringing. It wasn't something my dad was gone by the time I was 3.5. So,
I mean, we were raised by a single mom who, all of a sudden was single with two young kids, and our mom didn't have a college degree, so she went out there and she scrapped and she scrambled, and we never wanted for anything. We never realized that we were probably kind of poor.
Yeah.
We're getting some. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying the same thing actually, because that's I didn't realize that my parents had been, basically the working poor. I didn't realize that at the time. I did have stress over money. So, my dad worked construction in Pennsylvania. So every winter there was a big layoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom just worked part-time as a cashier. So, trying to make it on her salary during those winter months were always a little bit of, I felt it. But I never felt like I wasn't going to be able to eat or, have clothes or whatever. And I feel like there are students living in their cars. That's all right. You back? We lose him?
Everybody's back now, but I'm not sure if it's the Wi-Fi or what, but I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Wi-Fi.
Go ahead.
Wi-Fi happens. I'm good.
Not in rural America, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, my Wi-Fi is pretty bad. I'm trying to get a new Wi-Fi system, and I scheduled twice, and they never came either time. And now they're bothering me to pay a bill for Wi-Fi I don't have. And when I can't,
God.
they're like, well, send back your $300 modem. I'm like, but I never got one.
I don't have it.
Like, this is a great company.
That's awesome. So I some of it got mixed up when you were talking about your dad working construction and then the winter months being a little bit tighter. We never really felt in our house too. Like our dad was gone; he gave very little in child support, and our mom sold real estate. She worked in the lab, doing at the hospital type of thing. But we never really felt poor. You lived in kind of a middle class neighborhood. There were some wealthier people in our neighborhood as well, but you just didn't have the haves, have nots. I don't know if that's a social media thing that I went home and I was familiar with what I saw. I wasn't on Instagram seeing how great everything was and what a loser I was type of thing.
Right.
Or if
Right.
our parents taught everybody in the neighborhood that, hey, we all live here, don't be a jerk, or I'm not sure how it got to there, but I do feel it's so different now living poor than then.
Oh God, yeah.
I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have the stress per se. And that's not to say that we were oblivious. I mean, we knew we didn't have, but now it's like taken to this umpteenth degree that really just makes depression, it makes anxiety, it makes anger. None of those are real positive for a society, and especially for youth growing up. I mean, it's amazing what these kids deal with.
Yeah.
Well, everything is so in your face. You see exactly what everyone has, and it's got to be horrible to be a teenager or a young person now with like Instagram, where people are like, so many of them are just literally faking it.
Yeah.
Right. But they're selling this image and people look at that and they're like, oh my God, my life sucks. Why don't I have that? Or why don't I look like that?
Yeah.
You know?
That's how I felt when I was a young girl looking at like Teen Magazine, right? I had no idea those girls were airbrushed. I had no idea, right? I mean, and that's the same thing. People are airbrushing their lives and posting it on Instagram. And then everybody thinks they have this wonderful life. And wait, I'm just sitting here by myself and my friends aren't answering my texts. And, and you start comparing yourself to this idealized version of somebody else's life, right? Not even real.
Yeah, it's so unhealthy.
Absolutely. And I guess, again, we didn't have all that to deal with, but also, I don't know, maybe the upbringing was different. We've talked about my neighbors before, the Italian immigrants. You listened to them. You listened to people of authority, and it wasn't just your parents or I know better. It just created a different fabric. It didn't matter race, religion, creed. This was your neighborhood. These were the people that were around you, and they looked out for you.
I mean, who came over when the kitchen ceiling collapsed because the tub overflowed? It was Uncle Jerry from next door.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you called them uncle and stuff. You did.
Definitely,
I mean, I remember I was just thinking about this not that long ago because I had completely forgotten, but I was maybe like between 3 and 6, and I developed a friendship with this old guy next door, and I would go over there and hang out with him, like, hey Hank, how you doing? And we'd sit on the porch steps together and like chat and stuff. Like, you just don't. I mean, I've lived in my house now for 12 years, and I know the people on either side of me. It must have been about a year ago that I met the guy across the street. It's like sad.
Yeah. Well, there's no real sense of community to that point. And a couple things. You mentioned an older gentleman. You're a young girl going over there. Nowadays, people would be horrified, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing with Uncle Jerry. Every Saturday, I'd go running over there for donuts. Whatever project he was working on, he'd come home from work. I was the giant pain in the ass little kid that would come by, just seeing what Uncle Jerry's doing type of thing. I'm not saying there weren't weirdos then that we have now, because I'm sure there were just as many pedophiles, maybe a few less, but shit wasn't right then either. But
it's never been right.
But your first thought was that these are genuine good people. You didn't just jump to pedophile, weirdo, freak. Right. And you were allowed to have those relationships. And Aunt Lucy just passed at 99. And we had a relationship with her until she passed because they were incredible people. I mean,
they really were. They were literally like family.
Yeah, it was sort of tribal oriented where everybody, like, you can imagine. And I think that's actually our natural way to live as humans, where we would live in these small communities and take care of each other, and everybody watches everybody else's children, and that's kind of how it was in our neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not in most neighborhoods now like that.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't generally know your neighbors. This all started where Timmy's got lessons, or I go to this private school, you go to that private school. We all went to the same elementary school basically in our neighborhood. We didn't have private schools in Pittsburgh. You had one in Shadyside and you had one further out, Kiski.
Or maybe you had Catholic school, but that was,
but those Catholic schools still came home kids and played in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and took our lunch money and ran their various scams. PJ Hogan.
Whatever. That's never going to change.
Calling someone out. Come on.
Well, he did.
PJ was quite the man about the neighborhood.
He's been mentioned before, and he did become a congressman in Maryland. So I think it's okay to
Republican.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
But PJ sold memberships to a golf course he built in his backyard. He when I was doing my little UNICEF collection around the neighborhood for the temple gave us these little UNICEF boxes. He said, "Hey, you know what? Let me turn that into my church. It'll get there quicker."
Oh my God.
Okay, PJ.
He also,
My sister was
he also-
the neighborhood one who did that stuff. She had when she was like 4 and all the kids in the neighborhood were at school, she went around collecting all the bicycles and putting them in her yard, my mom's yard. And then she had a bike sale.
smart kid.
Every neighborhood's got a PJ.
Probably also in Congress now as well.
Yeah, she should be. She should be actually. She'd be the Democratic one. So
Nice. Well, it's just different. I don't want to get too far off why you're here with the information that you have. Anything else on healthcare or research that you think should be pertinent and mentioned? I mean, you sent us this list of trigger words that once it pops up, those grants are going to be gone. I'll start with woman, female, assigned female at birth, activists, advocates, anti-racism. I mean, all these
Diversity,
things
equity.
harmless.
yeah. And I mean, I do research on pregnant women. So I don't know how I'm going to avoid female or
Oh my
women, or you're not allowed to say pregnant people either, because those are on the list too.
Yeah.
So there's basically no way for me to indicate a person is a pregnant woman or a pregnant female or pregnant. Like, I'm going to have to say pregnant participants or something. I'm going to have to think of, seriously, I'm going to have to think of other words.
Actively reproducing humans.
I mean, how do I, and if I'm looking at, like, I think I told Bill this story where, it was on a call, we were discussing like pivoting for the new research world that we're all living in. And this woman said her grant, she's a very senior, very well-established researcher. Her grant got not reviewed. It got kicked out of the system because they searched it. They searched everything. They searched every little component of it, not just the main part of the grant, but like all the subcomponents that are part of it, and found the word gender 6 times. Kicked it out.
That's a no-no.
Killed her grant, the word gender. Yeah.
Now, in the past, would you just look at the abstract and get the idea of what it is, and then we would approve it, as opposed to literally going through every word-by-word line of these grants?
Yeah, that's what she was under. She had been told that they would just look at the lay summary and then the specific aims abstract kind of page. And she said she scrubbed those really carefully. Now, that's something people are spending time doing, right? Scrubbing their work so that it will not trigger, but she said she scrubbed those really carefully, but they went through every section of the grant. Things like, I mean, we have all these weird little sections like facilities, just things that you're saying, I have access to this and access to this, and I'm going to be using that. There's little sections up like that all over the grant. They went through every one of them.
Wow. And do you think that's because she was so well known, type of thing? Would they do that with somebody that was just starting out, or has only been in a few years? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on the topic. So I think, nobody's titles are going to have anything to do with diversity or reaching out or minorities or anything. That's going to have to all.
DEI is such a terrible thing. You're absolutely right.
Oh, it's horrible.
How horrible is equity and inclusion? I hate this.
Yeah, so stupid.
I just feel people don't understand what it really means.
Well, let's make it really simple for them. Hegseth wasn't qualified to do anything. He's an alcoholic with a problem, and then you put him in charge of our military, though he still has a drinking problem. He was a DEI hire.
Right.
I mean, white women seem to find out pretty quickly, the ones that were getting these jobs, that they were also DEI hire as they were being let go.
Right.
Why is it always got to be about shade? I mean, let's be honest here. They want to put in white. This is where we're at.
Preferably men. White.
Preferably men, whether they're competent or not.
Correct.
It doesn't matter, and generally incompetent.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. Like, it kills me to think that when you have a DEI program and you're doing this in your company and you're trying to, increase your diversity and increase your, basically just include everybody's opinion, right? That's better for your company. Because if
Yeah.
you're trying to sell a product, you want to be able to sell it to everybody, right? So don't you want everybody's opinion, from every corner of the earth coming in? And that's the whole point of DEI. It's not because we want to give a break to somebody because they are Black,
Yeah.
or we have a
For sure.
quota that we need to fill. And
Yeah.
that's really infuriating that people misunderstand it and then claim to hate it when they don't really know what it is.
Yeah. And, and people seem to think that it means you automatically get a job. It means you get a chance. That's
Right.
all. You get a chance to put yourself out there and show what you can do, what you've got. That's all it is. And then from there, you pick the people that are the most qualified that come across as the best.
Right.
What's
And,
wrong with that?
and do you think nothing, honestly? But do you think we talked about this before? Harvard is if you earn less than $200,000, they're giving you free tuition. If you own a family earns under $100,000, full ride, transportation, housing, etc. University of Texas, same thing. Columbia, same thing. To me, part of that is because maybe you get tired of looking at the white person perspective. You're surrounded by just one like-minded person. You can't expand. You can't reach out to others, and you can't even get better without bringing in some new ideas, new thoughts, new perspective.
Yep.
Do you think that's part of why they were opening up tuition to the less fortunate, so to speak, $200,000 less fortunate?
Yeah, I know. Well, I know USC has a lot of scholarships like that, and I have taught undergraduate classes where, the students have informed me in casual conversation that they were on a full scholarship, partly for need. So,
Okay.
they and actually the conversation came up because USC is the University of Spoiled Children, right? That's what we call it. So there are a lot of really wealthy families that send their kids there, and the kids have grown up very wealthy, and then those kids who come in from on scholarship don't always feel like they fit in.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that is sort of the problem.
Grandma's ready.
That's all right. Yeah, so that's I think sometimes like the issue is that they're trying to increase their diversity, but at the same time they bring in kids who don't necessarily they aren't supporting them once they get there.
Yeah.
Which is a problem
Yeah.
because you want them to be comfortable and you want them to fit in with everybody else so that those people can collaborate. You don't want, oh, we've got these people over here and we got the normal people over here, and that's not how it works. You got to get in there together and kind of roll up your sleeves and be all part of what we're trying to do here.
Yep.
Which is
Oh, yeah.
which comes back to where we are politically. We say every episode more or less that we can disagree on 98% of the stuff, but that 2% has to bring us together to create this change. We're seeing it with people that are finally starting to talk, just because this research stuff, all of this is affecting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
China just sent over ships that had empty containers. By June, July, especially back to school, you're not going to have your normal stuff on the shelf. So we need to get to the bottom of this quicker than in 4 years or 2 years. I mean, this is a now problem, and it continues with the education, research, healthcare. I mean, the environment. We have no time to waste because the people at the top that are sleeping at the Pope's funeral don't really care.
And that person at the top is also showing significant signs of dementia. So you'd think he might have a vested interest in some of that research.
Yeah, you really.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's
very good point. We don't like to refer to him a whole lot, but I will add this because we mentioned the Pope. The Pope had 3,000 homeless people, gay people, transgender people accompany his casket for the last mile of the procession.
That's awesome.
It was instructions that he left, and even the Roman Catholic Church abided by his wishes. I mean, this was a very special person, and you can tell that when Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out and says, the devil's dead.
Yeah, that was horrifying. I mean, this woman is just a troll. What a miserable small person.
Wow. Yeah.
And
you can see it on her. She's just horrible looking too. Like you can see her.
You can see the hate leaching through.
Exactly. Yeah.
This was the kid in high school when she wasn't invited to a party. She called the cops.
Yeah. Terrible person.
And she never got over that. Just, oh God. these people.
To that point, the Pope wrote a letter to all U.S. bishops before he passed, and he said, "Please do not fall or trust the J.D. Vance and Trump's fake Christianity." I mean, yes, he was 88 years old. Yes, he had his faults as well that some people thought, but at least he was like a real person. At least he was trying to learn till the day he died to better himself, to be part of this process and not just be like, I'm the pontiff and this is what I do and you're all beneath me type of thing. Was never a thing. And I think people feared that because he was really in the trenches. And I don't know that they necessarily like that. At least our administration, not a big fan.
Power doesn't like to see that, right?
Right.
But it's interesting because, this was someone that actually did, live the Christian values, the values of Christ. And now, especially in this country, we've got so many of these fake Christians, the evangelicals. And dude, I'm not a Christian. And yet I'd like to think I probably embrace more of the Christian values than these people do because, be kind, treat people well, have empathy. It's not hard. It's not a tall order.
Yeah, one rule to remember, right?
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Treat other people like you want to be treated. Yeah, just be nice to people the way you would want someone to be nice to your mom, right? Just be nice and be respectful until someone shows you that they don't deserve that respect.
Yeah, right? It's not hard.
It's a good rule.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like you're right. This Pope, I was raised Catholic, so full, obviously I'm an atheist now, so that's where that goes. But I mean, I did like this Pope. I did like this Pope because he was, very different and very much focused on people and was willing to say things critically about, he was willing to get a little bit involved in politics.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that about the people who accompanied his casket. That's actually amazing.
I didn't either. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, he was a good man. 400,000 people showed up in Rome today for his funeral. I think that makes you pretty special. The only guy that didn't get the dress code right was the orange guy, which is par for the course. But he was able to get some tweets out on Truth Social, so that was kind of important.
Yeah. We are waiting with bated breath for the next tweet.
Yes. What's coming next?
It's pretty amazing. So he's busy doing that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, the economy, 2 Japanese automakers, Nissan and Subaru, are closing plants in the U.S. That's going to be about 40,000 jobs that are going to go away. $10 billion in cash that we're not going to have. And China, just to throw this in, canceled 12,000 metric tons of pork that they're not interested in. So these farmers that really put on the red hats and pulled up their bootstraps and went to work are getting screwed. I don't know if they're going to realize that yet, if it's going to take several months. But here's the thing, like all the golden rules that you mentioned, when they are ready to band with those that have already been awakened to the shit show, come, you're welcome, let's go type of thing. Take the hat off, but get in the car.
You can't wear your hat.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll just kind of see. Again, I'm hoping this happens faster than not. The stock market, you can manipulate any way you want. I'm sure all of us have seen our savings or your 401 or retirement go away. These are cyclical, but we can't gauge how we live daily based on something that can be so manipulated by those in power. I mean, you have this many billionaires, they can make anything seem legit. We got to start in our communities. We got to start taking care of our own people. We got to start looking out for our own people, and we have to start engaging with our oon people. The rally we went to last week, everybody had a different sign. The bottom line was against, pro-democracy and against these robber barons, so to speak. Any other sign for, child research, for the environment, for trans community. Everybody had different signs, but everybody was there supporting one another. And that's really what's going to take over this hump.
And the weather was terrible, but people came out.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's another one that's scheduled for May 1st, May Day. So people can look online and see where they're.
What day of the week is that, Billy?
It's a Thursday.
I thought so.
It's the Thursday. I'm just looking for that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, if you take a day off work, take a day off school, and find out where your local one is, and get out there, show some support, because that's what it's going to take. We're going to have to keep doing it. It's
We
going to be
do.
a slog. It's going to be a long haul,
Mhm.
but we have to do it. Otherwise, you can't let this go much further, because once they're entrenched, I mean, look at Russia. Putin's been there since 1999. He's not going anywhere. Once this is solidified,
Yeah.
it's not going away. Nobody's
Well,
coming to save us.
And the judges are, I mean, our only real hope are the judges. You saw Judge Dugan, Hannah Dugan. She's a county circuit judge in Milwaukee. She was arrested in her courtroom at 8 in the morning. They came in, they took her out. She was charged with obstruction. She will have a court date on May 15th. She was released. As you dig deeper, the judges went after ICE. They broke the law. She didn't break the law. So as more judges push back, it's going to be what's going to shut down the executive branch. I mean, it's the only hope. Now, the executive branch says we have all power. My attorney general says the same thing. But as I like to remind people, Nixon's attorney general went to jail along with several other people. I know Nixon didn't, but they did. So be very careful. And I won't even mention her name, because then they'll be showing up at my house.
Yeah, really.
But whatever it takes, I'm all about it. Not a huge deal. So ICE is out of control. That Homan guy's out of control. They seem like a bunch of haters. And when you're deporting 2-year-olds without their mother, that's a real issue.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Sending them to court.
Yeah.
They were actually putting them, like little kids with their little stuffed animals they're holding on to. I mean, this is like, it would be funny if it were like a joke on Monty Python or something, but it's not,
Yeah.
I saw that. I mean, that kid couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old that was in front of the judge. And thank God she got some representation. It was kind of important. But, they don't feel like, well, the orange guy said, due process. We don't need that. There's too many of these illegals. You let in millions and millions in. How are we going to have due process for all of them? Know your statistics, do your research, look for your sources as to what's being said, because most of this is just garbage information.
Yeah. And it's sad to think that there's nobody that's in this process that's just kind of like slow walking these figures. Like, yeah, we'll get on it. Don't worry about it. Because Trump will forget. He moves on.
Yeah.
He doesn't focus on any one thing. And, he sees that the deportation numbers aren't matching up to what he said. Make something up.
Well, just like the wall. He said he already built the wall, but he's going to build some more wall. But I already built the wall. Like,
he just moves on.
Narrative to more lies.
But during Stalin's reign of terror, they sent out lists to all of the local. The predecessor to the KGB was the NKVD, and they had murder squads in every little area. And they were so motivated to do this, generally by fear, because a lot of these guys ended up being on the list themselves. Stalin was extremely paranoid. They would just go out and pick people that weren't on the list. Hey, do you mind if we just add a few other names on? And they would just go out and execute these people just to pad their stats, so to speak.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean that's where this kind of thing ends. That's what this leads to. That's where this stuff goes, and it's horrifying. But you would hope that there were some people in the administration now that can kind of put a break on some of this stuff. Just slow walk it, slow it down, just
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I did want to mention that Santos was convicted of, what was Santos, of wire fraud and identity theft. Maybe you remember George.
Oh, yeah.
See if I
he liked to wear his tight pants.
He liked to wear his tight pants. He liked to put his
I
thumb in
miss that,
well,
tight pants was a big joy of my life, and now I don't get to see him in his tight pants anymore.
I know, it's sad. We all miss that.
Yeah.
7 years. The good news is he'll be pretty popular in jail, I believe.
Will he be going to El Salvador?
No. But since you mentioned El Salvador, I just wanted to bring up Matt Gaetz real quick. He went to El Salvador. He saw the lack of hope in people's eyes that were being abused down there. He came back and he told Stephen Miller, I think this would be a great place to start sending our deportated peeps. And even though he's not in government anymore, these horrible people are still pretty influential on policy.
They're sick. These are sick people. I thought he was down there looking for a replacement for his little the little friend he used to have. I forget his name, but thought he was looking for a younger version.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe, maybe not. Maybe he was just seeing what was down there as well. But
Just
yeah,
reveling in the misery,
horrible
really enjoying
person.
it.
We don't hear about him, but he did have relations with 17-year-old girls and did a lot of drugs with them. Did drugs in our Congress, and you get a free pass, I guess, if your dad was a political figure as well. So this stuff has to change. Santos, I know that one of Trump's childhood friends, which I know everybody was surprised. Oh my God, he had a childhood friend. This weirdo came out. He spoke at the rally, the knockoff Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden that they had during the election campaign. And he really wants this guy, Santos, to be pardoned. Seems weird. I don't understand the correlation between these people, a childhood friend of Trump's and George Santos, who's not even in the age group that would be somebody that would be friendly. But the point is that these pardons are kind of out of control. If you're convicted, you should do your time. It seems pretty simple.
Yeah, especially if you're complicit in the murder of DC police officers, or Capitol Security, whatever,
Oh my
and
God,
you're trying to overthrow the government. You should probably be unpardonable.
Yeah.
Well, and not to go off on the deep end here, but I am going to bring up Luigi. Luigi's defense fund has raised $950,000 from about 27,000 people. He hugely appreciates the support, and they want to know why people are donating so much and what the angst is that they have that you would be accepting of somebody who murdered, allegedly, a CEO of a healthcare company. And most of the people have deep resentment and anger about the healthcare system and these healthcare insurance companies.
Mhm.
So them pushing the death penalty, which they want to call this terrorism, even though we don't call some of the most obvious school shootings terrorism.
Yeah.
They want to put this kid to death, and it's really pushing people as well to really defend him, because they feel like some people feel like you needed something like this to get that attention. How many people did that CEO condemn to death by not providing the health care that they needed? This was one kid that had had enough and allegedly took it into his own hands for the greater cause of everybody else. So really trying to set, if they put him away for life, maybe the anger wouldn't be as deep as it is. But when you're trying to sentence this kid to death for his actions, people are really pushing back. And I think it's good to see, based on the fact that, due process, right? Put him in front of the judge. Let's see what you got, lawyers. I mean, that he left a backpack laying around, that he sat in a McDonald's waiting to be picked up. I mean, it all seems a little sketch.
Little sketch, and the narc that turned him in at McDonald's got nothing.
Fired.
Fired, yeah.
He's
And probably
supposed to be
has no
working.
friends. Yeah. But if you could get a random group of 100 people together, and I guarantee you 95 of them probably have a healthcare horror story, because
Sure.
that's how rampant this is. And that was just one health insurer, right? One CEO of one health insurance company. I mean, that industry it's horrific.
Yeah.
That system is so broken. I mean, everybody is affected by that, unless you've got, that congressional gold-plated healthcare, but that's not us.
Yeah. And they get to keep theirs too, which is offensive. I mean, Grassley, how much longer is that guy going to go? He's 91. Would you stop already?
Yeah.
Too much.
Expensive too, because he's old. So, it's not going to be cheap to take care of him.
God, no.
For sure. So we're coming up to the hour. Normally we would do some kind of happy ending. I had a bunch of other stuff, but you were such an interesting guest and you kept on topic that I really couldn't get into some of the other stuff. Maybe we'll share on Tuesday. But the happy ending, I was just going to put out there was a NORC poll about Trump's second term. This is my happy ending. There's still 31%, and we call them a cult, that think he's doing a great or a good job. Your people that think he's doing an average job are at about 16%, because they're out of their minds and not paying attention, which is okay. But the poor to terrible percentage right now is over 50%. 52% of people think he's doing a poor or terrible job. That to me, we're stemming the tide a little bit. People are starting to catch on. maybe your neighbor's suffering, maybe your aunt's suffering, your uncle. We're all feeling this. So again, I'm glad that it's happening faster than waiting 4 years. Like this is normal and this is okay. As people are getting picked up off the streets, as people are being sent to El Salvador without due process, as we're cutting funding, as we spoke most of this hour about, very little on JFK Jr. because he's just out of his mind and not worth it. But you're telling us real stories about real people that affects millions of people. If you're not doing your research, if people are going to foreign countries, we're not going to be the place that people come to get smarter and to help us as a population do better.
Yeah.
So my happy ending is people are catching on. We need
That is a happy ending. So that's inspirational because, it's hopeful. And
Yeah.
I think the moment you lose hope is the moment you can't even fight anymore. So you have to have that hope to keep you, in the fight.
And that's a quote
Absolutely.
from MLK was that they asked him how he could go on. He's taken so much abuse. He's watched so many people get murdered, slaughtered. And he said, hope, you got to have hope. If you don't have hope, you have nothing.
Yep.
So we do have hope.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good.
Billy, you have anything happy at this end?
Happy to have Melissa on today.
That
It
was
was
pretty
awesome. Just really,
Be here. Thank
just
you.
so fun. So, I mean, I think I speak for Rob when anytime you want to come back on, please do.
Okay, I can come visit again when you have, need for somebody to come in and have weird colored hair or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime, seriously.
Yeah, and I feel like it just doesn't have to be on research topics. I think you're pretty well rounded on world events and especially within our country. So it'd be great to have you back and certainly entertaining having you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Of course.
a pleasure.
All right. Well, I guess since we did our happy ending, I have to play music and finish my day.
And I'll dance again.
I know it's catchy, right?
It is catchy.
Well, good seeing you. I hope we can have you back, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Catterday.
Thank you. You too. Happy Saturday.
That's awesome. See you, Melissa.